Welcome back to Sparkman Homestead. My name is Krista. We are headed outside to go and grab some raspberries. If you're hearing something, it's just, where is she? Right there. That's Maggie. She is a cat that we picked up years ago from the Bowling Green Humane Society. She was part of a program called Barn Cats, where what you do is you rescue feral cats and bring them in. You let them kind of be a barn cat on your property. Anyways, she is so far from being feral. This cat has to be involved in everything. The second somebody comes into this homestead, she is all about meeting them and making sure she gets her adequate attention from them. And if you don't give her attention, then she demands it. I want to show you guys the sunflowers over here, but the sun is shining directly in this path. There they are. So we have two there and one here. I did not plant these sunflowers in here. These guys just volunteered. I had sunflowers planted in here years and years ago. I remember I just had a seed packet and I emptied it out, and I don't know why I picked the raspberry bush. It's not a very smart spot. But anyways, now they keep coming back every year, and I'm not mad about it because these are the only sunflowers that I have on my property. These raspberries are getting neglected. I keep forgetting to pick them. We also have a really bad Asian beetle problem. You can see here, they're just eating the raspberries to pieces. So I'm gonna get out here and see if I can salvage some of them. This one looks good. Let's see how many we can get picked before we get inside and do some chores. Pulling some weeds, which usually ends up happening when I get out to harvest stuff. That's why it takes me forever to harvest stuff. I'll show you what I'm talking about by these Japanese beetles. They just sit on the plant and they eat it. The raspberries that aren't good anymore, I'm just throwing them on the bottom. They can just compost in the bed. That's perfect for them. All right, we got a basket of raspberries. We're gonna go over to this, what I call my side garden. I just call it my side garden because it's on the side of my house. I just wanna check and see if I have any more green beans, and then we are gonna head inside because today we actually have an excessive heat warning, which in the south, that's hot weather, and it is already like in the hundreds, and it is, I think, like not even 9 a.m. yet. We're gonna check the green beans and then we're gonna head inside and get our canning done. This is another bush that these stupid Japanese beetles love. Look at, they're just eating my plant to shreds. Let's see if you can see me if I hide down here. I was out here the other day picking them, so probably not a lot on here. This is the first year that I have not put out Japanese beetle traps, and I will say that they are definitely a lot less. I found that when I put the traps out, it actually attracts them into your yard. It's not a good thing. So this year I just said I'm not putting those traps out because it doesn't work. And this is the first year that I've actually noticed a decrease in them. So yeah, definitely nice not having the traps out. And I think we only have one green bean. There's some on here, but they're just a little bit immature for picking, so we'll just leave them. This is just a tangled mess of green beans. And I have a tomato plant buried in here. These ones are called Napa, I believe. They're the same as champagne bubbles. They crack very easily because they're a thin-skinned tomato, but these things are my all-time favorite cherry tomato. They are so good. Let's see if these guys are, oh yeah, these guys are in good shape. You got to get them picked before almost they turn color, because otherwise they split. It's getting to the point where I actually was having a hard time breathing out there. That and the fact that I'm wearing a black t-shirt, that doesn't help either. I'm thinking I'm gonna actually have to take this t-shirt off because I cannot breathe in it. It is just, you know the t-shirts that you get that are thicker cotton, perfect for the winter to wear? This is one of them. And I just wore it in 100+ degree weather. Not a smart idea. I'm overheating right now. So I'm gonna just go and change my t-shirt, and then we'll be back and we'll get some projects started. Also emptying the pockets of my apron. So we're gonna get our raspberries soaking in a little bit of water and vinegar. I don't do this because I spray. I do this because the vinegar helps extract any type of little bugs that may be in them. It's all part of not using pesticides, which I would rather try to get bugs out of my food than have bugs not want to eat my food, because if a bug doesn't want to eat my food, that means that there is some pretty nasty stuff sprayed all over it. I'm not all about ingesting that nasty stuff. So I just do the vinegar water trick and it works. So these ones have been soaking for a while, so I'm just gonna drain them. And I don't use very much vinegar either. Just use a little bit. And get these in a jar. My plate stands in the way again. Okay, so I'm just getting some cold water, rinsing the bowl out a little bit. Give these ones to the chickens. These were ones that weren't so good. And then I have a little bit of vinegar. I'd say maybe I just put in 2 teaspoons of vinegar. Maybe we'll go 3 teaspoons. And then we will take our raspberries we just picked and put them in here. Oh, we brought in a Japanese beetle. I don't know if you can see in there. Ugh. Yucky, yucky. Okay, so we'll let these soak for about 15 minutes. And then we will rinse them and put them in this jar with the other ones. All right, to get started with today's project, I have 2 things that I want to get done today. Yesterday, I got something off my list, which was really nice. I got some corn canned. I put some corn in the freezer that you've seen on 2 videos ago, and that is kind of my now go-to way to do corn because we really, really love corn on the cob. One recipe we have been enjoying lately with the canned corn is I brown some butter, and once that butter is nice and toasty and brown, I add the drained canned corn to it, and then I just saute it a little bit. I add some salt and pepper, and then I also add this stuff. It's amazing. It's kind of like a street corn hack, and it just tastes so, so good. And we honestly have been eating it about once a week. So I realized after I got those 2 dozen put in the freezer that I was down to about 10 jars of canned corn, which if you think about it, if we eat this once a week, even if we eat it twice a week, that means that I had to have 24 cans of corn in my pantry to get us through until we get to the next corn season. So I only have about 10 or 11. So my goal is to get another 12 in the pantry. So on the weekend, we went on a little bit of an adventure, and we went to just a couple different Amish places that we don't normally go to. I have my go-to Amish that are about 30 minutes away from my house, and that's normally where I go if I'm going to try to find some stuff in bulk. But we just decided to go on a little bit of a road trip, which was amazing because we hit the best estate sale. I actually have a e-commerce business. That is my main 9-to-5 job. We were there for a solid 2 hours. It was the best. I found so much inventory, which I was really excited about. But anyways, so that was the weekend. We went just kind of exploring everywhere. We don't normally go off into new places. I like to stick to what I know because especially if I need to get something, I need to know that it's going to be there. So anyways, I was looking for some corn because I realized I needed to get some more canned. Just grabbing my frozen corn on the cobs in here. These actually have no corn on them. They're just the empty cobs. With the 2 dozen corn that I had bought, I got them canned and I only got 6 pints out of it. So I need to actually go back to the Amish and get another 2 dozen. So that way I'll be able to get my 12 on the pantry shelf. But we have the cobs here. And I just put them in the freezer because I knew I wanted to do this project today. I did not have time to do it last night. They're just the cobs left over from the corn that I took off. I'm going to insert the clip here. I did film it yesterday, just showing you guys how easy it is to can corn. It is one of the easiest tasks to do. The only time-consuming part about it is that you've got to take it all off the cob. But once you get that done, it's literally hot water and pressure can. It does take a while to pressure can, but so worth it. It's such an easy thing to do. So I'll insert that in here, and when we get back, we will get our project started. Also, I have to change my battery again. I talk too much, so I kill batteries. So I'll be back. This is the corn that we picked up from the Amish. We actually got it at 2 different places. So it's 2 different varieties of corn. I think one of them was like just considered a sweet corn where it was just all yellow. And the other one was a peaches and cream, which is my favorite kind of corn. It's just a white and yellow corn. So to get started with the project, you want to take all of your corn and you want to remove the husks and remove the silks. And then next you want to just make sure that all of those silks are off them. So I just scrub them just to make sure, you know, I get most of them off. Now, I don't get all of them off, and some of them go in the canning process, which is unfortunate. I don't know of a really good way to get all of the silks off. Also, it is a task that's really good to do outside instead of in your kitchen because it's a huge cleanup. So next up, you want to take your clean corn and you are just going to take the kernels off of it. Now, the recipe does recommend to take the kernels off by starting by the center and working your way down. I ended up doing that once I got done just a couple of these. So this is the bag we're going to put in the freezer for our corn syrup recipe later on. So next up, you want to get all of your kernels into your jars. So I am doing a raw pack method, which is so easy to do with corn. You can do a hot pack method, which is in the Ball canning book, but we're going to do the raw. So we just take all of our kernels, we put them into our hot jars, and we are going to leave 1-inch headspace, and then you're going to top that with some boiling hot water and then just debubble. Make sure you have no air bubbles in there, and then just top it up with any more water just to make sure that you are at that 1-inch headspace. You're going to clean the tops of the jars because this corn does get a little bit messy, especially with me because I make a mess every time I can. So I'm going to clean the rims really good. I'm going to put my lids on, and then I'm going to put my rings on. Now this ring actually had a dent in it, and I don't want to use any damaged rings because I want to make sure that I get a good seal and I don't want any jars to break. So I'm just going to throw that ring out. We're going to get the other rings on to fingertip tight, and then we are going to get these put into the pressure canner. This is a pressure canning recipe, and it does take a very long time. So because we are doing pints, we are going to pressure can this for 55 minutes. You are doing quarts, you are going to can that for 85 minutes. Now the Ball Blue Book does state that if you want to can quarts, you're going to need about 8 medium-sized corn. That's why I was saying earlier, like in order for me to get these 6 jars, I had to use 2 dozen corn. So it does take a lot of corn, but it is so worth it. That is how simple it is to can corn. It is such an easy kind of mindless task. I know the very first time I attempted to do it, I was very intimidated because it's a pressure canner recipe. Once you get the hang of it, that is one of the easier recipes to try if you are just starting out with your canning journey and pressure canning. Beets, corn, carrots, those are very easy recipes to learn how to pressure can with. So today, what we're going to do with all of these things of corn that normally most people throw in the garbage or in the compost or give to your animals, I am going to repurpose these. So I know I mentioned it a while ago that I was doing a pantry reorganization. Maybe I didn't mention it. I think I did. Maybe in my head I thought it. I was doing a pantry reorganization, and I discovered that my corn syrup that I had canned 4 years ago was 4 years old. Now I like to definitely push the limits with canned goods, but the 4 years was a little bit too much. So I no longer have any corn syrup in my pantry, and I make my own corn syrup because it is so easy to make, and it's not made with yucky stuff. It is literally made with corn scraps. So it's kind of like a corn simple syrup in a way, but it is a corn syrup. I have tried to make a pecan pie or a pecan pie, whatever you call it. I call it pecan. We're just going to leave that there. That's what I call it. You may call it something different, and you are fine to call it something different. I made a pecan pie with this corn syrup, and it turned out amazing. It worked exactly like the stuff that you get at the store, except I made it myself and I knew exactly what was in it. So we're going to get started by putting all of our frozen corn into a very big stock pot. And this is 2 dozen in here. Then we need to get these filled with water. or not these. We need to get this filled up with some water, and we're gonna fill it up until all of the corn is covered. And I just wanna say, put a little disclaimer here before we make this. This is not a healthy recipe. This is full of sugar. It is just a corn syrup that I know what is in it, and I know where the corn came from. It's just healthier in that way, but by no means it is healthy because it is loaded with sugar. Let's get this on the stovetop. Ready, and we're gonna put this on high, and then we want to bring this to a boil for 30 minutes. And then after it's boiled for the 30 minutes, we are gonna simmer this for about another hour. Now, I got this recipe from Rachel over at the 1870s Homestead. If I can find her video where I learned this from, I will link it below in the video description for you guys so that you can see the original inspiration that I got for this. I am doing this because I feel comfortable canning it. I don't know if this is a USDA tested and approved method of doing this. I can simple syrup also, and it is perfectly safe to do that. This is along the same lines as it. It's just a lot thicker of a concentrate. So guys, do your own research if you are going to do this. Just don't take my word for it. Just me saying that I'm comfortable doing it. You have to do your own research. So I just want to put that out just at the very beginning, that I do not think that this is necessarily an approved canning method. This is kind of me being a little bit of a canning rebel. I am a canning rebel, which just means that I go kind of outside of the suggested stuff sometimes, but I don't do it to the point where I feel it is no longer safe. Kind of a rule breaker that way, but not a rule breaker where it's going to endanger anybody. So just do your own research. Alrighty, so we've got that boiling. The second project that I want to get done today is another project that is going to take hours and hours and hours to make. We are going to make a garlic marinara sauce, and that one is out of this cookbook here. I will leave this linked for you guys. I found this at Goodwill, I believe, or an estate sale or a thrift store somewhere. Most of my cookbooks have either been gifted to me or I find them at a thrift store. This is why I want to get that done, because we've got a lot of tomatoes starting to pile up in here. Some of these are in desperate need of getting used. They're starting to go bad. I also have 3 bags of tomatoes in the freezer that we need to get emptied out. So that's kind of what's making me want to do this project today, is again, freezer clean out, you know, everything but counts challenge, all of the things. So we're going to get that one done today. I think we're going to do it in my roaster oven because we are going to be using a lot of tomatoes. Let me see how many tomatoes it actually calls for. Here it is. It's spicy garlic marinara. It says 12 pounds of ripe tomatoes, and it suggests to have them peeled. To peel a tomato, it is done the exact same way that I showed you how to do those peaches in a couple videos ago. So all you do is just score the end with an X, put it in boiling water for 30 seconds. Once you see that skin starting to peel off, immediately take it out of the boiling water, put it in some ice cold water, leave it in there for about a minute, and then the peelings will come right off of them. Because we are using half frozen, I'm wondering if I just want to throw them all in the roaster oven and then I can just run them through my food mill. Yeah, you know what? I might have to skin them first. If you don't want to skin them, that's perfectly fine. It is suggested, and again, I just explained that I'm a rebel, but it is suggested that you take the peelings off for safe canning. I personally don't like the peelings in my sauce. I find that sometimes they don't get blended through and they're kind of a little bit leathery. So I personally prefer to peel my tomatoes before I make any type of sauce or anything like that. If you don't want to, that's, again, do your research. It's up to you. I'm not going to tell you what to do in your own kitchen, but USDA suggests you take the peelings off for safe canning. I do it, again, because of a texture issue that I don't like them in there. So I think what we'll do, because we're using frozen ones, the frozen ones, the peelings actually just slide right off of them. That's a benefit to freezing your tomatoes. So the ones that are not frozen, we're gonna have to do the boiling water thing. So I'm gonna get that started, and then this sauce takes about 2 to 3 hours to make. Because we are using a paste tomato, it's not gonna be as watery, so it won't need to cook down as long. So that's gonna be nice. Okay, let me get my tomatoes out of the freezer. Just gonna run them under some water. And usually when you run them under water, the peelings just come right off. I'm just gonna give these skins to my chickens, but another really cool thing to do with them is you can actually put them in the dehydrator and you can dehydrate them and you can make a delicious tomato powder with them. It is great to add to dishes, just add a little bit of tomato flavoring with it. I've also heard that you can use it to make almost like a tomato paste. You just add a little bit of water to it, thicken it up, and then you have a homemade tomato paste without having to use 1,000 tomatoes to make it. But I'm just gonna give them to the chickens because I actually have a whole bunch of dried tomato powder already in my pantry, so I don't need to preserve any more this year. I think this corn is now boiling. Yep. So I'm gonna set the timer for 30 minutes. That's what it looks like. Our 30-minute timer went off, so I'm just gonna give these a stir, and then we will turn the heat down and we'll simmer these for another hour. All right, so we got all of our tomatoes peeled. I ended up weighing them and it is about 15 pounds of tomatoes. Now the recipe calls for 12 pounds. Chopping tomatoes gets really, really messy. So I always like to have a towel underneath, make it a little bit cleaner. I'm just gonna put this in my sink like this, and then that way when we're done chopping, we can just put them right in here. So some of these are still frozen, that's fine. My chicken bucket, just put it on the floor, put all the bad pieces in the bucket. I'm not too concerned with the seeds because we are using paste tomatoes and they tend to be less seedy than the other tomatoes. If I get to the point once it's done cooking and I find that there is a lot of seeds in it, then we will run it through the food mill and just take those seeds out. But I'm not thinking it should be too bad. I'm also just putting the core pieces in the chicken bucket because I don't want the cores in there. They're a little tough. Let's put on 300 for right now so we can get warm. Just went outside to give the meat birds. That's what we call our chickens that we raise for our meat. I just went outside to go and give them a fan because they do not like the heat. I just seen that they are saying that by the end of this week, we are supposed to be hitting 120. Oh my, that is some hot weather we have coming up. But I'm not gonna complain because I prefer heat over freezing cold weather. Like, we'll take this way over freezing snow covered, just icicle weather. Hate that stuff. Because we are making a spicy garlic marinara, we're gonna put a lot of garlic in it. It calls for 1/3 cup of finely minced garlic. So these are just some cloves that we harvested this year. And I have my little KitchenAid food processor. So we're gonna put a couple cloves in here. Now some of these cloves are not good, so I'm just gonna cut the bad spots off of those ones. The rest we'll just throw in here. I am 100% going to use more than 1/3 cup because we love the garlic taste in this. I make a couple of different pasta sauces. This is a new one that we tried last year, and Steven said he way prefers this one than the one that I normally make. My son loves the one I normally make, so I'm still gonna make that one this year. We love the garlic in this one. It is so good. All right, so we're gonna put this on the chop feature. Scrape down the sides a bit. I actually need to do this with all of my garlic and get it put into the freezer. And then we will add this garlic in here. So next it calls for 2 to 5 cayenne peppers, fresh cayenne peppers. I do not have fresh cayenne peppers. I'm going to use some stuff that I have already pre-ground. This is just pepper flakes. So we like it spicy, hence the name of it, spicy garlic. So I'm going to add in a good amount of these pepper flakes. And then we need to get in 3 tablespoons of salt. And then it says 3 tablespoons of sugar. That's what I did last time, but I'm gonna actually use honey in this time instead of the sugar. I'm gonna put in 3 tablespoons of this. And we're gonna stir it all together so that everything gets combined. I have water at the bottom of my roaster pan. That's what you're probably hearing splashing. I do that just so that I get an even cook on it. I find that when I put water in the bottom, it helps it kind of cook evenly. It is not a huge recipe. I think this only ended up making 6 quarts, maybe even less than 6 quarts. Maybe it was only 4 quarts. I know it didn't make a lot, but I didn't have enough tomatoes to double the batch. So I'm probably gonna end up doing this twice this year. Anyways, ideally, you want to do it in a nice big stock pot, but I only own 1 stock pot and I'm using it for the corn right now. So we're going to do it in the roaster oven. It should be okay. We want to bring this up to a boil. Then once it gets to a boil, we want to reduce it to a simmer and then let it simmer for about 2 hours. We're trying to just kind of thicken the sauce up, take some of that water out of here. Now, because these are a paste tomato, they're not going to be too watery, but they're fresh tomatoes, so there's definitely going to be some water content in them. So we're going to bring that up to a boil in the roaster. I find that it's pretty hard to get stuff to come to a boil with that thing, but we'll attempt it. And then once it gets to a boil, we'll turn it down a little bit and then leave the lid off. We want all of that water to evaporate into the air. And if we put the lid on, it's going to keep all of that steam in and it won't cause them to thicken up because the lid essentially is trapping all of the moisture in there. So whenever you want to reduce anything, always leave the lid off of it because all of that moisture just goes up into the air and it doesn't stay in the thing. So bring that to a boil and then we will come back. These guys are still simmering away. So we got a little time here. So I am going to get some laundry done, try to get some of my other work done, and then we'll be back once these things are all kind of at the next stage. So my microphone died when it came to doing this next step, so I just filmed it anyways because I could not wait for my microphone to charge. So what I'm doing now is I'm taking that corn and I'm just straining it. Now I like to do 2 strainings of this. The first straining, I just get the big cobs out and then I compost them, give them to my chickens, whatever you want to do. And then the second straining, I like to do it through a Mechlin cloth. You could use the cheesecloth as well. And then you're just going to get all of those little bits out. You do not want to have those in your corn syrup. It would not taste good. So I realized that this big pot was a little bit too big for the project that I was doing, so I was able to actually put it into a smaller pot and it worked way better. So when I was getting ready to move on to the next step, I also realized that I had no more brown sugar. Well, I did have brown sugar, I just knew I did not have enough to make this recipe. Again, like I'd stated at the beginning, not a healthy recipe at all. So we're gonna make some more brown sugar. It's super easy to make. All as you do is just take your white sugar. So in my case, I'm just using an organic cane juice or an evaporated organic cane juice. And then I'm adding that to my mixer and then I'm just taking some molasses. Now I probably have about 6 cups of sugar in here. So I'm going to use about 3 tablespoons of molasses. Now it depends on how dark you want your brown sugar. I just wanted a light brown sugar, so I added that amount. If I was making this and wanted a dark brown sugar, I would just simply do this mixing step and then see what it looked like, and then if I needed to add more molasses, I would just add that. So we're gonna add the sugar to that strained water. Now, depending on how sweet you want it, I added about 5 cups of brown sugar to this. So you're just going to add that and then stir that in. Alrighty, we are on to the next step. So now this corn syrup is getting pretty hot. What we want to do is we want to bring that to almost like a barely boil, and we want to reduce this stuff until it is halfway gone. So we want to reduce it by half. I have a candy thermometer, and we are just going to bring this to 220. And remember from the last video, I learned that this is adjustable. There we go. So we're going to bring this to 220 because we want to get that nice thick syrup, and we don't want there to be all of this water in here. Essentially, you just want corn flavored sugar left. So again, I have that on a medium heat. So over here, we have this stuff, and this stuff is starting to thicken up really good. Now I am noticing that there is a lot of seeds in here, and I'm not super excited about it. So I think we're gonna end up running this through the food mill. Now you can see the line. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but it was about here when we started. So this is reduced quite a bit also. I think what we're gonna do at this point, we're gonna get our immersion blender out. If you do not have an immersion blender, you can just use a regular blender. And I'm going to blend this. The reason why I'm going to do this, and it actually does not suggest it in the book, but I don't like the chunky tomatoes. I like my sauce to be really smooth, hence why I'm going to run it through the food mill, because I don't want those seeds in there. So I'm just going to give it a quick blast with this. Much better. It's still kind of chunky, but we'll run it through the food mill, and that will take some of that chunk out. Okay, I want to show you guys why I'm doing this. Look at all of these seeds in here. I do not want that in my sauce. There is also quite a bit of garlic in here, unfortunately. So I think what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna actually take it out of this roasting pan, and I'm gonna put it into a pot, because we're using a smaller pot now for the corn syrup. I can use my big stock pot for this sauce. I'm gonna add some more garlic into that because I really want the chunks of garlic. If you wanted to skip the step of peeling your tomatoes, skins would have actually came out at this process as well. So if I would have known that I was gonna be doing this, I wouldn't have wasted that time and peeled all of those tomatoes, because I could have just got the skins off in this process. But I wasn't sure whether I was gonna food mill it or not. And then we are gonna dump this into here. There's still some garlic in here, which is nice to see, but we need to add more. We're also at a boil here, and we are definitely at 220, so I need to turn this off. Oh, my multitasking skills are not good right now. Oh no, what are we at? We're almost at softball stage. Okay, we need to get this off the heat, and it's not reduced yet. So let's simmer it. Let's bring the temperature down a little bit, and we're gonna simmer this because I need this to reduce. It is still too watery. We've got that on a low now. Some days I can master multitasking. Other days, clearly today is one of them, it's not my wheelhouse. So that's on low. I need to go and get my scrap bucket, and then I'll get these milled and then get this on the stovetop. We have the sauce back on the stovetop. I am gonna be honest with you guys. I had to take a second to just kind of clean the kitchen up and just reset a little bit. I am getting very, very flustered. Normally when I'm doing these big canning projects, I don't get this flustered. I honestly think it's the heat. I have the air conditioning on in this house, but we had the roaster oven going, we had that pot simmering. It's just very hot. So I just need to take a minute just to kind of clean my kitchen. You can probably tell on the video, but I have an extremely, the camera probably makes it look a lot bigger than it is, but I have a very small kitchen and I don't have very much workspace. And when I have big, huge pots on the countertop, I don't have workspace. And if I don't have workspace, everything's just very cluttered. So I just had to take a minute and clean up. I don't know if this video is even gonna make it out because It's been one. So as you can see, we just went into the back pantry and I grabbed a jar of tomato sauce. This is just a plain tomato sauce that I canned last year. It has nothing in it but tomatoes. It is a little watery, you can probably tell. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add it to this pot because this is the amount of sauce that we have, and that is not going to be enough. That is not even going to make 6 quarts. And you know, when I'm doing a project, I like to make it worthwhile, and we love this pasta sauce. We probably have it at least once a week. So I need to make sure that I'm getting a lot done. So I have a lot of jars of tomato sauce in my pantry. So we're going to add one to kind of extend this a little bit and stretch it a little bit more. If you don't have a garden or have access to fresh tomatoes, you can always make this sauce with plain tomato sauce. If you can find it on sale, you can make your own delicious, delicious pasta sauce. So all you would do is you would obviously skip all of those steps that I just did, the time-consuming steps of peeling the tomatoes, chopping them, doing all that. You would simply just dump your tomato sauce into here and then add all the other ingredients, and then just simmer it until it's a nice thick pasta sauce. So I think 1 quart should be enough. You know what, we'll add another quart because I make my tomato sauce with all different kinds of tomatoes, and we're gonna have a whole bunch of slicer tomatoes coming in soon. So I can definitely restock my pantry with more tomato sauce. So I'm gonna use some of last year's stuff. You wanna know why I'm hot? Because my air conditioning wasn't on. I just checked and it's 83 in this house. Oh my gosh. I was hearing the air conditioning, but I have it on upstairs. We have a geothermal system, so we have 2 different controls, and we have a downstairs and an upstairs air conditioner. So the upstairs one was on, and that's what I was hearing, not the downstairs. So just turn the air on. That might help my mood a little bit. Oh, today is not the day. Today is a struggle. Some days are like that. We just gotta push on through them. Okay, so we've got 2 quarts of extra tomato sauce in here. Again, this is pretty runny, so we're gonna put this on a medium-high heat. We're gonna bring this up to a boil. Once it gets to a boil, then we're gonna simmer it, and we're probably gonna simmer this for a couple of hours. I do wanna get some more garlic in that though. So I have some pre-chopped garlic in my freezer. This is from last year's garlic, and I pre-chop it and just put it into little like balls. We're gonna add 4 little balls. Probably a 1/4 cup of garlic in here. I'm thinking we need to do a taste test actually. We haven't tasted it since we got everything blended together. We actually haven't done any taste tests actually. And we need to make sure that the salt, because we just added that tomato sauce, and the sweetener and everything is still good. The heat is definitely good. Once that garlic gets mixed in, that'll be good. I think the sweetness is okay. And same with the salt. I think we're good. Actually, you know what? I might add just 1 more tablespoon of honey, just because we did add that plain tomato sauce in there. Probably adding maybe like 1.5 tablespoons of honey in here. Not very much is coming off this thing. I know it looks like I'm putting a lot in, but I'm really not. I love how it's just a little sweet from the sugar or the honey, whatever you're using, and that heat comes in and blends with the tomatoes. This is a really amazing pasta sauce. It's been about an hour and everything is actually looking like it is pretty much ready to be canned. I'll show you what they look like. So this is what the corn syrup is looking like. When we started, it was all the way up here. So this is definitely reduced. You can see the thing is not even in it anymore. So we will put it in. I'm pretty sure it is at the 220 that we need it at. I'm going to say that this is ready to be canned. And then this, you can see we started, it was up here. So this is definitely thickened up. So this is also ready to get canned. So we have 2 water bath canners. I know for sure the corn syrup is a water bath canning recipe. That one you water bath can for 10 minutes. And then this garlic marinara, that is also a water bath canner, and that one you can for 35 minutes. So what we're gonna do, because I'm going to can the cornstarch in pint-sized jars, we're gonna use our countertop Presto water bath canner for that, because that I can water bath pints in. I cannot water bath quarts in. Then we will use this one for the quarts because I can water bath quarts in that one. Getting a plan. Air conditioning is functioning now, and it's amazing how when I have air conditioning functioning, how things just come together smoothly. So there was one more thing that I forgot that we had to add into that pasta sauce, and it is some fresh basil. It actually calls for fresh basil and parsley, but we don't have any parsley growing in our garden, but we have a lot of basil. So I just went out and picked this. I'm gonna rinse it off. Just gonna take the stems off. This is just some mammoth basil, or lettuce leaf basil it's called. They are huge and they taste delicious. So the recipe calls for 2 cups of fresh basil, and it wants you to roughly chop them. So we will do a nice rough chop on them, but I'm gonna take the tough stems off of them. This right here is my favorite smell, like my most favorite smell. There's a couple different varieties in here. This is just a sweet basil, or Genovese basil, I believe it's called. It's looking a little wilty because it's, you know, beyond hot outside, and I did pick this about an hour ago. I'm gonna get the rest of this drying. This should be enough basil for our recipe. Give it a quick rinse. We're gonna add all of this basil into here. We're gonna get this basil stirred in. We're not gonna put this back on the heat. You're supposed to add the herbs after you are done cooking it down. I wonder if we should put some dried parsley in this. I think it's fine with just the basil. Let's get this cornstarch in the canner. These jars are warm, off the heat, and we are gonna leave a 1/4 inch headspace in these. Kind of thinking I probably should actually do these in 1/2 pints. That's fine. Just don't use a lot of corn syrup, and a pint is a lot. Just usually ends up sitting in the fridge for a long time. I said a 1/4 inch headspace. This does thicken up as it cools also. And then we have a little left over that we'll just put in the fridge. We want to make sure that these tops are really clean, because this is probably one of the stickiest things you could possibly can. We're gonna get our lids on, get our rings on, fingertip tight. These are so hot. Get these put in the canner, and then I need to add water on this. You need to cover these jars with at least 1 inch of water. Put on. There we go. 1 down, 1 to go. The other thing I did was put this back on the stovetop just on a very low heat, because I don't want it to cool down too much, because it needs to be hot when it goes into these hot jars. And then we are going to add 1 tablespoon of lemon juice into each one of these jars. This is just what you do for safe canning. Now, if you're pressure canning, I don't think you need to add the lemon juice. This is just what the recipe advised me to do, and I usually end up doing this anyways with most of my tomato products that I'm making. It's just for the acidity level. I think we're going to 1/2 inch headspace, but I need to double check. Yep, we're gonna go to a 1/2 inch headspace. We got 4 quarts and a little bit for the fridge. That guy will stay out. And then we're gonna get these debubbled. The top's cleaned on these. Let's get our lids on. Get our rings to fingertip tight. One inch of water, get the lid on that. We got them all in the canner. I am so happy. Today was definitely a struggle for me. I was not in the right headspace to be doing this, but it had to get done. The tomatoes were rotting on the table. I needed the freezer space. So these things all had to get done. And I'm glad that I just did it. I'm glad you guys came along with me. So for the pasta sauce, we are gonna can these for 35 minutes because we're doing quarts. You have to do your research if you're doing a pint, but I would guesstimate, and guesstimate is a big word there, that it would be 30 minutes for pints, but do your own research. And for the corn syrup, we are doing 10 minutes. So I am very happy to say that that is it for today's video. So yay, we're done. We got another 2 things going into the pantry for the winter. It's exciting. So thank you guys so much for coming along this very long, hot day. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day or night whenever you're watching this, and I will see you on the next video. Bye guys.